The first thing I see every morning is glass. Floor-to-ceiling windows that wrap around my office, catching the sunrise over Manhattan like 1,000 tiny diamonds. It's funny. Years ago, I used to wake up staring at peeling wallpaper and wondering if I'd ever feel safe again. Now, the city blinks back at me like an equal. My assistant knocks lightly before stepping in, placing a latte beside my laptop. "Big day, Miss Thompson," she says. I nod, offering a polite smile. She doesn't know what day it really is. My birthday. I check the time, 8:47 a.m. A vibration hums across my desk. A text notification slides into view.
Mom.
2 words I haven't seen on my screen in nearly 7 years. Can we talk? My fingers hover above the phone, motionless. For a moment, I feel the air shift. That same ache deep in my chest that used to keep me awake at night. I exhale slowly, tracing the edge of my silk blouse, grounding myself in the present. Everything around me screams control. The espresso's rich aroma, the faint click of my heels against the marble floor, the reflection of my tailored blazer in the glass. But inside, there's a quiet war between pride and old wounds. I don't reply. Not yet. Instead, I swipe open my banking app, numbers glinting across the screen like a secret I've guarded for years. The irony makes me smile. She kicked me out on my birthday once. And today, she's reaching out, not knowing that her daughter's silence is louder than any words she could say. I was 19 the last time I heard my mother's voice without a tremor of anger behind it. That birthday started like any other. Cheap candles from the grocery store, a boxed cake, mix I made myself, and a wish that maybe this year would be different. It wasn't. Dad was at the kitchen table, arms crossed, pretending to read the paper while Mom paced the floor, her heels snapping against the tile. I could still smell the frosting, too sweet, too artificial, as she started in on me again. "So you're really doing this," she said, voice sharp. "You're throwing your education away for some startup job in New York?" "It's not just some job, Mom," I said, clutching the edge of a counter. "It's an internship at a financial firm. I got it on merit." She laughed, bitter and short. "Merit doesn't pay rent, Ava. You think you're smarter than us? That city will chew you up and spit you out." Dad didn't look up. He just muttered, "She's made her choice." That was it. No happy birthday. No hug. Just the slow realization that I was already being written out of their lives. When I tried to explain, my mother cut me off. "If you walk out that door, don't come back." The air felt too thick to breathe. I looked around the kitchen. The same faded curtains, the fridge covered in old report cards, the cake I'd spent the last hour decorating. Then I looked at her. The woman who'd taught me to stand tall, now trying to make me kneel. I picked up my duffel bag. "I'll figure it out," I said quietly. Outside, the night air hit like a slap. I remember clutching the small silver locket my grandmother had given me. Inside, her handwriting on a tiny slip of paper, "You don't owe anyone your light." The words burned through my tears. I walked until the streetlights turned blurry, until my phone battery died, until the last piece of my old life disappeared behind me. And though my heart was breaking, one thought kept me moving. Someday, I'd make it so no one could ever send me away again. New York didn't welcome me with open arms. It greeted me with rain. Cold, merciless rain that soaked through my thin jacket as I dragged my duffel from one cheap motel to another, clutching my grandmother's locket like a lifeline. I slept 3 nights on the floor of a friend's dorm before finding a room for rent, barely big enough for a bed and a desk. But it was mine. My first space that wasn't filled with someone else's expectations. Days were brutal. I worked mornings at a coffee shop, afternoons at my unpaid internship, and evenings studying financial modeling on my cracked laptop. There were nights I cried quietly into instant noodles, wondering if Mom was right, if the city would swallow me whole. Then I met Cynthia Hale, senior analyst at the firm, and the kind of woman who carried her power like perfume. She caught me staying late one night, squinting at spreadsheets under flickering fluorescent lights. "You're either lost," she said, leaning in the doorway, "or you're hungry." "Hungry," I said without hesitation. She smiled. Good. Let's feed that. From that day, Cynthia became my mentor. She taught me the language of leverage, the art of calm and negotiation, and the quiet confidence that didn't need to shout. People underestimate women who listen, she used to say. Let them. It makes winning easier. I listened. I learned. My first small victory came 2 years later, a client account no one else wanted. I stayed up 3 nights straight, reworking every number, every slide, until the proposal sang. When we closed the deal, Cynthia handed me the firm's bonus envelope with a wink. That's rent for a better place, she said. By 24, I had savings. By 26, I launched my own consulting firm, just me, a laptop, and the city skyline outside my window. I didn't post about it. Didn't tell my parents. I let the silence stretch between us like an ocean. When they called occasionally, Mom's number flashing for a few seconds before disappearing, I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Every contract I signed, every zero that appeared in my bank balance, felt like another brick in the foundation of a life they said I couldn't build. I didn't need validation. I just needed to prove, quietly, that I could. And I did. My company grew from a cramped studio to a high-rise suite overlooking Park Avenue. My first employee called me Miss Thompson, and it took me months to stop flinching at the title. I wasn't the girl they'd thrown out anymore. I was the woman who learned that silence, the very thing they mistook for weakness, could be the loudest form of power. The message came on a Tuesday, short, hesitant, almost embarrassed. Ava, your father lost his job. We're struggling. Could you help us out a little? I stared at the screen for a long time. The same woman who told me I'd never make it was now asking for help. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just quiet desperation dressed up as politeness. For a moment, the 19-year-old inside me stirred, the girl who stood in the rain with nowhere to go. But the woman I'd become, she was different. I replied, "Of course. Why don't you both come by my office this Friday? We can talk in person." Friday arrived crisp and bright. My assistant had arranged the conference room with coffee, pastries, and fresh flowers, small touches I requested, not for them, but for me. I wanted this moment to feel intentional, poised, controlled. When they walked in, they looked smaller than I remembered. Mom clutched her purse like it might save her. Dad's shoulders were slumped, his confidence stripped away. Their eyes darted across the room. The minimalist furniture, the abstract art, the skyline visible through the glass wall. My mother's lips parted slightly. "This is yours," she whispered. I nodded, offering a calm smile. "Yes, all of it." She looked around again, processing. "I thought you said you worked for a firm." "I did. For a while." I poured her coffee, steady hands, controlled tone. Then I started my own. Dad spoke for the first time, voice low. "Your own company?" "Yes." They exchanged a look, confusion, disbelief, maybe even shame. Mom's eyes finally met mine. "We didn't know. You never told us." I tilted my head slightly. "You never asked." Silence filled the room, heavy but satisfying. For years, I'd imagined what I'd say if this day came. But standing here now, I didn't want revenge. I wanted recognition, not of my success, but of my strength. I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward them. Bank statements, investment accounts, property deeds, lines of numbers that told a story no words ever could. "These," I said softly, "are the conversations I've been having since you kicked me out." I didn't shout, I didn't argue. I just worked. And I let the bank statements talk. Mom's eyes glistened, her mouth opening but no words coming out. Dad rubbed the back of his neck, looking anywhere but at me. Finally, Mom whispered, "We were wrong." For the first time in years, I believed her. I leaned back in my chair, watching the city behind them shimmer in the afternoon light. The same skyline I'd once chased, now reflected in their eyes. "I'm not angry," I said. "But I needed you to see that I didn't disappear. I just grew without you." Mom nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. Dad exhaled, shoulders sinking deeper. I closed the laptop gently, final, deliberate. "So, tell me, what kind of help do you need?" They looked at each other, fragile, uncertain, humbled. For once, I wasn't the one seeking their approval. This time, they were sitting in my world. Mom dabbed her eyes with a tissue, her voice trembling. We just fell behind on everything. The mortgage, the bills. Your father's been trying, but… I don't need the story, I said gently, not unkindly. I just need honesty. They both went quiet. For the first time in years, I saw humility in their faces. Not fear, just the uneasy recognition that power had shifted. I can help, I said, folding my hands. But there are conditions. Mom blinked. Conditions? Yes. I met her eyes, calm but steady. If I'm going to invest in this family again, then I want to see it change. Dad frowned. Change how? I leaned forward slightly, my tone firm. You start by being honest with yourselves and with each other. No more pretending everything's fine when it's falling apart. No more tearing each other down because pride feels safer than truth. Mom lowered her gaze. Ava. And I continued. I want you both to go to counseling. Together. I'll pay for it. But you have to show up. They exchanged a surprised look. Part resistance, part shame. I'm not doing this to punish you, I said softly. I'm doing it because I don't want this pattern to keep repeating. You always taught me to work hard, but you never taught me to be kind to myself. That ends here. Mom's chin trembled. We don't deserve this. Maybe not, I said, but that's the point of grace. You don't earn it. You learn from it. Silence filled the room again. I could almost hear the hum of the air conditioner, the muffled traffic far below. I turned to Dad. There's one more thing. You always told me my dreams were unrealistic. You told me to stay small, stay safe. So, here's your new job. You're going to help Ella. He looked confused. Ella? My sister, I said. She wants to go to art school. You're going to support that dream, not crush it. You'll be her advocate this time. He nodded slowly, the words catching in his throat. And Mom, I added, you're going to stop measuring love by success. You're going to learn to listen, not just to what people say, but to what they need. Mom's tears came freely now. Ava, we're sorry. We were scared. We thought we were doing what was best. I know, I said. But fear isn't love. I just needed you to see me, really see me, for who I became. I reached into my bag, pulled out an envelope, and placed it on the table. This will clear the debts and the mortgage. The rest is up to you. Dad picked it up, his hands shaking. You don't have to. I know, I interrupted gently. But I want to. Because power, I realized, isn't about revenge. It's about peace. And in that moment, for the first time since that birthday, I finally felt free. A few months passed after that meeting, and the air between us slowly changed. The calls came more often, tentative at first, filled with small talk and awkward pauses, but softer somehow. Lighter. One Sunday morning, Mom sent a photo. She and Dad were standing outside a brick building with a banner that read Family Therapy Center. Both were smiling genuinely, this time. My chest tightened in a way I didn't expect. A week later, Ella called me in tears, happy tears. Dad helped me submit my art portfolio, she said. He even built me an easel from scratch. I hung up the phone and just sat there, staring out at the skyline that had watched me grow up in silence. The city glowed gold in the late afternoon light, and I felt something loosen deep inside, like a knot finally untying. That night, I opened my jewelry box and took out the locket. The metal had dulled over the years, but when I flipped it open, the tiny piece of paper inside was still there, my grandmother's words faint but unbroken. You don't owe anyone your light. I smiled, running my thumb over the fragile ink. She was right, but maybe after all this time, I'd learned something else too, that sharing your light, once you own it fully, doesn't make it dimmer. It makes it real. I placed the locket back around my neck and glanced at my reflection. Older, steadier, a woman I would have never recognized on that rainy night years ago. Tomorrow, I'd sign a new deal, a partnership that would expand my firm internationally. But tonight, I didn't need success or statements or proof. I just needed quiet. As I turned off the lights, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Happy birthday, Ava. We're proud of you." I didn't reply right away. Instead, I looked out at the city, alive and endless, and whispered to myself, half a smile tugging at my lips. I learned that silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. And when the numbers speak for you, even the past learns to listen. Bottom of form.